Howdy. Been a while. Just you and me. This is a version 49 of the podcast. It's 2026. Happy New Year. I hope you made it. I've got I got a couple emails from people being like, "Hey, you okay, man? It's been a while since you cut a break and change, a major release." And I realize, I've fallen into a roughly every other week cadence with this program. And it's not because consistency is important when you're publishing. And you want to, bake in that audience expectation so they know every 2 weeks they can go and do a lot of house chores because they're going to have 3 hours of shit in their ears. Hey, that's a nice benefit. And if I was trying to grow a real business out of this, certainly I would have uh, a publishing calendar, social media strategy. But that's not why I do this. I do this because toxins build up in my system and then I need to emit them or else I get gas. And my wife complains. So when I decided that today, I'm busy. I'm busy as fuck. It's already 2:20. I don't know where today went. I got too much going on, but I'm about to get on a plane. I'm going to be gone for like almost a couple more weeks. And then, even if you're subscribed to the podcast, you're like, hey, is that guy even still doing this? Did he give up? And that's just not compatible with New Year's resolutions where like this is the month of the year that we actually follow through on the bullshit we spew to ourselves and to others about how things are going to be different this time. I'm going to get through dry January, god damn it. I'm going to go to that gym that I pay year round to go to. I'm going to go this 1 month, but I'm not even going to do that, it turns out. I do pay for a gym, and I've never actually worked out there because and I'm not just trying to support the local economy. I want an Anytime Fitness key fob so I can go around Japan and use the gyms over there, and I have no interest in working out alongside other people in a gym in the U.S. if I've got a setup at home that is good enough. So New Year's resolutions, I don't know, man. Like I said, I've got a lot going on. I'm stretching myself a little too thin. I've got a lot of different goals. I've got like stuff I'm building that I haven't talked about, stuff that I'm not building that I've promised people. You know how it is. Procrastinating too much, and we'll get into it. I want to set the expectation that today, even though I spent an hour of prep on this podcast, which is an order of magnitude more time than the typical prep, it's because it's been, since mid-December that we had a breaking change. A lot of news, a lot of shit's happened, and a lot of it's worth talking about. And now a lot of it's old and less worth talking. So I had to do some filtering. But I don't have a little buzzer with me, but I'm going to just, as soon as something I'm talking about today gets boring, I'm just going to move the fuck on. And I might segue, but I might not. We're here to have fun. I'm just here to catch up. I miss you, my friend. Let's get parasocial. Actually, speaking of keeping up with appearances, I had to dress down for this. I just went and changed because I was wearing a polo shirt, and that would have been off-brand for the video version of this podcast. People would be like, oh, he's gone corporate. When really I was just at the golf course because I thought about golfing, and then that sated that checked some kind of box for me, and I just kept walking to the parking lot. And I left without the actual golfing because you're the priority. So anyway, version 49. This is major release. What did I break this time? Let's call it saving face oil, because I got embarrassed in a social interaction, and it had to do with face oil. It was my defense. Yeah, we were out to dinner last month with another couple, lovely couple, and I don't know how we got here, but I just said very matter of factly that like, yeah, I don't wash my face because like I've got this thick Italian, what I like to refer to as ethnic grease that just kind of coats me, and most soaps and face washes I've used kind of strip those natural protective oils and then dry my fucking skin out and it gets all rashy. And basically, anytime I've had any problems with my skin, it's happened within 72 hours after washing my face. And so, I let it get wet many times a day. I'm a 3 shower a day kind of guy. And who needs, I don't even know why, because here in Florida, just walking outside is like taking a shower as you pass through the humidity around you. But I have I don't know. Like I heard somewhere, I want to say I read it in a paper, but I didn't read it in a paper. I might have read it in a USA Today at an Embassy Suites in 2010. That it's actually okay to not wash your face. And so far, since that shitty newspaper wire story gave me permission to stop, my face has actually been in pretty good shape. So, and I saved time and money. But anyway, when I said it at dinner, it elicited a reaction of just pure disgust from one of our friends. And I realized, yeah, that's on the list of things I've never said out loud, I suppose. Now I know how that lands. And since this is the official podcast of shit that's going on in and on my head, with the nasal surgery and the breathing stuff, that's all working out. Still got some shit up there too, but it's making its way out. I can breathe really well. That's really lovely. Also in face news, the breathing is going great. It's we're finding that my throat is less dry because I'm not mouth breathing while I sleep as much due to congestion. Lovely. And yeah, those face oils, those tender ethnic greases are still coating my skin in this just luxurious smear. Which you can enjoy if you check this out on YouTube. Although, like we've talked about recently, people of culture probably don't just watch YouTube when they could listen to a podcast and get something else done. Where were we? Also today, speaking of juggling too much, I've got a codec CLI running on this. I record on a Mac Studio desktop computer. It's an M2 Ultra. It's a couple years old now, 2.5 years old. Great machine, very, very competent. And it's running. I'm having it build an iOS app that I've been interested in having for a long time, and I'm just kind of like because the latest version of Codex CLI, ChatGPT's coding agent, because the latest version with the 5.2 high and extra high models will very well on their own just gladly take a complicated request and then run for 5 hours, 6 hours sometimes on their own. Just if you can give it the verification loop, right? Like if you can give it, hey, write the tests, make the test pass, and it can kind of keep moving forward with some kind of verification things are working. Once I got that loop set up for an iOS workflow where I've got 2 simulators, they're logged into known iCloud accounts, and I'm like, build this app for me and have these 2 simulators talk to each other through collaboration tools and stuff. And here's the milestones and figure it out and just keep churning. And sometimes it'll lie to me and say, oh, it works now. And then on real devices, it doesn't work. And I got to give some feedback. But because it's actually a feature for me. Like if I'm working with an AI tool, I want it to either respond to me instantaneously or respond with, or be so slow as to be like, don't stare at your screen, we'll call you, right? And so then I get a notification that it's done. And often that's so much later in the day that I forgot that we were even doing it. I'll check it for 30 seconds and I'll send it on its merry way. And so that's like, it is a way to build software with a coding agent and not wind up in that helter-skelter, constant context switching. I'm trying to get something done in my own life, but then every 20 minutes I got to go and feed the beast to keep giving it more feedback. And so it's not the only way to work with a coding agent, but if I don't have an active project right now. I've got a lot of other shit going on, but there's still like all this other software that I want to exist. I'm like, this is not the most important project in the world. I don't care so much about the code quality. I just care if it works. And if I were able to get it to work, it would educate me about certain Apple APIs that would then actually benefit me for the app that I really do want to care about, the one about language learning that when I get the time, I will sit down and code like a real boy and review that code carefully. So all that to say, I am talking at my computer right now, and I'm watching simulators open and close and error messages pop up and the focus being stolen from OBS, which is the tool I record on. And I couldn't tell you whether or not that's going to result in a recording situation that I come to regret. But I want to add to the au revoir, Ourve? Ouerve. I can't pronounce French stuff when I'm on air. Ouvre? I feel like I've heard ouvre lately. You know, the overall vibe. I want to contribute to the energy in the atmosphere. That things are chaotic today. So we're going to just bounce around a lot. Sorry. Had a coffee with my buddy Eric, friend of the show. Eric Doggett, he's a Disney fine artist. He's a friend nearby. Great guy. And I'd like to have him on Hotfix because he sits at this fascinating intersection of fan communities in the Disney world and a competency that's very relevant of art. He makes beautiful fucking art. You check out ericdoggett.com. I love his style. As somebody who struggles to appreciate art, I look at his stuff and I'm like, I see that. But also he's like really technical. And so he's got a lot of experience. Like he's helped a lot. I've probably mentioned him. I definitely have mentioned him before in the podcast because he's helped me with the editing and the audio engineering of the show, as well as helping me set up the camera that I'm talking at right now. So he's been a tremendous friend. He and I were chatting, and I think maybe next month we'll do a Hotfix episode together. This is not a promise, but I'd like to schedule something because he's got a really great take on AI and artists and creatives and how to approach it and really what the economic reality is for artists in the world of AI. And rather than just being a doomsayer and really gloomy about it, I think his outlook is actually really human and positive and opportunistic, which you don't hear every day when you just read the news about how bad things are from a job perspective for creatives right now. Not to say I don't have any empathy, but I'm getting that feedback a lot that I don't have any empathy. I think you get served a shit sandwich, figure out how to make the most of it. Maybe if you air fry it, it'll go down easier. He commented this morning, hey, is today number 50? And no, we're just at version 49. He asked if we're going to throw a party, have a celebration. I don't know about that. If you got any ideas, email podcast@searles.co. What should I do for my 50th? Is it the gold anniversary? Silver? I don't know. None of this matters. It's because we do all these other episodes now. This is actually probably like the 55th or 56th episode. But because it's not every week, it's like, oh, is it a lot? Is it not a lot? Because this also marks the first podcast of 2026. So this is season 3. We have seasons here just because it helps us break up Aaron's puns. So welcome. I like to start with low expectations, and I'm actively lowering them now the more that I vamp here, I realize. Other random shit in the last month. Becky took me to one of her favorite comedians to go see at the Hard Rock at Universal Studios, named Fortune Feimster, who she's on a podcast called the Handsome Podcast, I think. Handsome Pod, one of those. And I like seeing stand-up comedians generally, but I like them even more when I go in completely cold, knowing absolutely nothing, because you get a full experience of not only their actual set and their bits, but I spend the whole time trying to like get inside their head a little bit. And so, yeah, her set was pretty good. It was sort of like a very southern, very not rural, not like conservative, but had a Larry the Cable Guy kind of vibe. I don't know. If you've heard of Fortune Feimster, you're a step ahead of me up until a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty cool. I had a situation where I needed, you've probably had this experience streaming. I pay for AMC Plus, but the thing that I want to watch is on AMC, and I need the cable subscription, but I don't have cable service anymore. And so I logged into, or it logged me into my dad's Comcast account, which I thought was done because my mom has her own now, but apparently it's not. So I don't know the financial side of this, but I was able to watch AMC. So thanks, Dad. He passed away a year ago, but he's still going out of his way to make my life easier. I imagine that means I probably could have watched more sports last fall, college football and stuff, but oh well, you live and learn. Yeah, I'm very curious how that works, given that all those credit cards. You know what? Probably shouldn't think too hard about that right now. Yeah. See what else is going on. The underlying, apart from all the normal reasons that like I live a chaotic lifestyle sometimes because I bite off more than I can metaphysically chew. I got kind of called up to go back to Japan for a little bit because we're buying this condo, close in June, and there are special interior design events this month and next month. And they really want me to come to the first one in person, where we'll be picking out air conditioners, final touches, finishes, like, do you want this wall to be stonework or do you want it to be wallpaper, and like the color schemes, and like, where do you want the mirrors laid out, and storage and closets and organization and the lighting packages and all this other stuff. And they send a whole bunch of PDFs over, which I did a quick post about like how I'm having ChatGPT kind of translate that for me, or make it a web app that like makes it easier for me to translate. Working through it, I'm building out spreadsheets with all my decisions, and now I'm formatting that as a PowerPoint presentation that I can print out onto like A4 paper and kind of flip through with them at this meeting so that we can kind of go through my decisions, and then I can spend more of my time actually conversing about like, as a dumb American who doesn't know how people design homes in Japan, can you please verify that like the selections that I've made are not bullshit? Whereas I have a much higher degree of confidence in how I like American homes to look, and I've got that experience. You go over there, and what's Echo Carrot? It's this whole system of eliminating smells from the air in your home by having like this porous stone material that takes up a whole wall and costs a lot of money. I'm like, well, I'm not really worried about the smell of my home. I'm going to have a nice big patio, open the window, but it does look pretty nice, but also it takes up space. So I'm just like, in addition to the cultural differences of like what people want in their homes and how people set them up, there's the language barrier. And then there's the actual, like, I don't want to buy a bunch of upgrades that are just scammy upsells. So please be honest with me in terms of what proportion of other buyers actually like choose the glossy coating for the floor ceiling to seal the hardwood or the manufactured wood from damage and so forth. It's not that it's a lot of pressure. It's that it's like a 2-hour appointment to cover 90 decisions, and I am woefully ill-equipped to just go in and rattle them off with confidence. I can do it, but I don't want to show up and have my first impression of this apartment that we just bought be like, oh wow, this is an absolute clown show and all of this clashes, right? So please pray for me. Still juggling. It'll be fine. It's always fine, but I step on a plane in a couple days, and no matter how quickly I can pack as an ultralight packer, I'll be packed in 10 minutes. It's all the other shit that you have to do. And then the stuff that you think to do opportunistically, oh, I should download some Japanese audiobooks for the plane or set up my Steam Deck with these games. And then that kicks off a whole another series of side quests. So that's fun. It's good timing to spend a lot of money on interior design. The yen keeps tanking. So it just hit 158.2 yen to the dollar today, which is damn near where it was a year ago. It hit 160 for the first time in my adult life, I think. And great place to be. Like for it to soften up right before this big purchase is like good. And I'm trying to be opportunistic about buying in yen, but that's just another thing that you got to stay on top of every day. I maybe the thing I look forward to most about having this whole purchase completed is I hate recurring emails, like email subscriptions that like happen every day, because it feels like there should just be a website I go to or a reminder I can click. But I get currency valuation notifications every morning, first thing. And I would love to just stop caring about what is the yen trading at. And I realize I could just wait and just like pay when I show up, and it might even work out better that way. But I'm trying to be conscientious, because when you're moving a lot of money from one currency to the other, it seems important to, be a good steward of your money. So bouncing around as promised, I got a Christmas gift from Becky and Jeremy. They know better than anyone that I fucking suck to buy a gift for, because I tend to just buy for myself whatever the hell I want, which is a separately not awesome habit. But there's very little that I don't already have, that I don't already want, that somebody could surprise me with. And even if it is exactly what I want or something that delights and surprises me, my track record for either having shit go and break on me or me just find a way to complain and sour on the thing kind of like ruins the experience for the gift giver. It's like, oh, wow, I gave you this new coat. I'm like, yeah, and it got torn and the zipper broke right away. It's like very Debbie Downer of me to be such a shit human generally, but also specifically when it comes to giving gifts. So Jeremy and Becky, they might have given the most successful Christmas gift that I've ever received, because it was totally not on my radar, not something I normally would have bought. They got me the Meta Ray-Ban Wayfarer glasses, Generation 2, longer battery life. You've probably seen or heard these things. They look like, if you don't mind looking like you're Rivers Cuomo in Weezer in the 90s with these thick black frames. It's not exactly my style, but it distracts from my receding hairline, so I'm all right with it. You put these things on, there's a little camera in the corner, there's the speakers, which are surprisingly good, and like you can just walk around and listen to a podcast, like this one, for example, via Bluetooth audio. Sounds great. There's a Hey Meta AI dingus that you can use to set up do basic productivity tasks. Like, for example, it's the only way to control certain things. Like you can take a picture with the picture takey button and you can press and hold it for like a video capture. But if you want to do a hyperlapse, like a time lapse video, then you have to actually say start a hyperlapse, and then it'll do that. And overall, very cool product. I take issue with certain design decisions, but it definitely, as a heavy Vision Pro user, I don't see the relationship between a VR experience where this is really the screen that you do real computing in, is how I use Vision Pro. And this literally doesn't have a screen. Basically, AirPods with stems and a camera, right? So AirPods that don't go in your ear, but just sit on your face, and they have a camera. And that's kind of it. Like as a heavy AirPods user, it's really just the existence of the camera that differentiates it. And so if I'm Apple and I'm thinking like, how do you enter this space before you're ready to like have a waveguide display on the thing? It definitely kind of feels like, form factor wise, you can't just put like a little snaky cable thing on the AirPods stem and get away with that, one would think. Certainly anyone with long hair, you wouldn't actually record decent video that way. But this leap all the way up to traditional looking glasses is it's a kind of skeuomorphism, right? Because the Google Glass, where Sergey Brin's walking around 13 years ago like a fucking dummy with this like one little like one eye reticle thing that looks like something out of Total Recall or some 80s sci-fi bullshit. He looks like a dork. But glasses, people wear glasses anyway, and whether they're sunglasses, transition lenses, prescription or not, no one's going to think you're a doofus for wearing glasses. It's just that there's a lot of that physically, other than, it gives you a place to hide the battery, is just like not actually necessary to the technical reality of the product. So it feels overkill. I don't know what to do with that. Obviously, we're in this weird transitional state where the smart face, again, this is the premier official podcast of shit on my face. It's just another chapter of it. The smart face industry of whether you're talking about AR and XR glasses or VR or this whole category of products is so immature technically. It's so far off from being able to realize the vision that everyone has for it long term. The end game, of course, of brain control interface is still out there and eventual, but like in the meantime, we're gonna have all these other kind of silly wristbands and thimbles and hand gestures. For the moment that we're in, it definitely feels like those Meta Ray-Bans meet the moment. It's a technologically, it's not rocket science, but it's able to hit a price point that people can afford, and it's able to solve a couple problems that people actually have. Now you say that, or I say that, and you might think, well, what's the real fucking problem? You're looking at something and you want to just take a first person video or a picture of it, and you don't want to hold a camera up to your face. Like that takes you out of the moment, right? I was at the fireworks at the parks with Becky, and I just did watch likes this one song in the fireworks, and I was like, I could capture that, and then press and hold, and I get a 3K video that actually looks kind of okay. And the first person view is novel. I did actually Ridesmiths annual event for myself and anyone who wants to tag along, where I ride as many rides as possible during one of the busiest weeks of the year at Disney World. And I subject myself to the crush of humanity to live among the people for just one day. And getting to do first person video of the rides, of the experience on the rides, is not new. That's a whole fucking category on Twitch, I'm sure, and live streaming. But it's something I would never hold up a phone, right? Or a GoPro, or even wear a helmet with something on it to capture that kind of video on a roller coaster. But if I'm wearing these glasses anyway and I can just press and hold it, well, all right. I mean, that's a kind of photo you could take or video you could take, just like any other boring selfie in front of a restaurant or picture of your dinner. So it expands the number of things you can take pictures of. And having an AI assistant on your face, it doesn't have to be you've got stuff stuck in your ears that indicates you're not listening to people. That's all. The AirPods can do a lot of the same shit, but when I've got two earbuds in, people assume I am not down to party by talking to them. Whereas with the glasses, they don't know that at any given time I could initiate the wake word and talk to it. There's some goofy stuff. I mean, I've had cases where I press and hold to start the music on them, and they should be starting Bluetooth audio, but then they don't. And then I hear something in the other room, and what's actually happened is they're now playing audio or playing music out of my phone, which is on the charger, which is near the entrance of the house. Seems like a bug. Seems not ideal. Another is that a lot of the features, because Meta is making a platform play, they're not here to build you a device to integrate with your Apple ecosystem or whatever, if you're an Android user, your Android stuff. This is about a wedge into creating a Meta-owned platform. And so while you could imagine and people appreciate these Meta Ray-Bans having a smooth glide path to sharing on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and these social properties that Meta manages, what's less welcome is if you tell, hey, Meta, remind me to do X, right? And it'll ask you, when do you want to be reminded? And you give it a time. Those reminders will pile up in an app called Meta AI in a gray round rect that is otherwise not styled, called reminders. not really interactive at all. They're just there. You can't export them. You can't edit them, as far as I can tell. They just exist in this liminal space until it is time to remind you. And when does it remind you, you might ask? Like, as far as I can tell, if you happen to be... Uh-oh. I'm getting some... Alright. I'll be right back. Sorry for the interruption. That was a rare... I don't know if I'm going to do a good job editing this, so I'm going to pause for a second, just in case I remember to. It was a rare instance of getting a phone call that mattered. I had a wire transfer of all the things. Wire transfers. Am I right? When ACH just won't do, we make it so hard to move money between, Oracle e-business database rows in this country. I think that's enough. I've got several more life items. They're not worth it. Let's follow up on some other shit and keep this train moving. Yeah, so if you've been following along, I spent a lot of 2025, which is over now and done, and we don't talk about it anymore. Spent a lot of it building Posse Party. Went on Aaron's podcast, his live stream a couple Fridays back, demoed some of the code base and talked through some of the development process there. It was pretty good. Might not be a whole lot of new news for you, but it's more visual because you can see my screen and us bouncing around. I also released tutorial videos for setting it up yourself. You can host your own instance, and it's relatively painless. It's not nothing. It's not like you just sign up at a website and you can have your own Posse Party account, because I don't have the kind of time, and it's not really going to generate enough revenue to be worth much more of my time. But hey, you can use it. You can go and you can install it. So if the tutorial videos, they kind of walk you through how to do that. You got to be reasonably technical. You are ultimately signing yourself up for self-hosting a server. Doesn't mean you have to have a machine plugged into a network in your home, but it might mean you sign up for a DigitalOcean or similar, like a Linode server, and run it over there. And that's not free and it's not nothing. But I'm getting engagement from, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, some folks in the self-hosting community. So there's like a subreddit of self-hosting. These are people who, I'm sure that there's a pretty healthy overlap with preppers and people who want to have stabilized water in a bunker in the mountains just in case. A lot of them want to also host their own, family photos and password managers and all this stuff so that they're not relying on the cloud. And it's easy to make fun of that stuff because it's a lot of extra effort and you're adopting a lot of extra risk for relatively low probability events. Like, if the zombie apocalypse happens tomorrow, the likelihood you're going to get to that bunker, and if you're enough of a nerd to know Unix, right? Like, what's the likelihood you're going to survive for more than 15 fucking minutes in the wild anyway? Or care about your Plex library at that point? But hey, everyone's got their different reasons for it. At the same time, like, the fragility of the modern cloud-based ecosystem is such that I kind of get it. Cloudflare goes down, AWS goes down, everything disappears. All it's going to take is, you could almost imagine it as a one-time catastrophic event where the most popular database host in the world just permanently loses all the data to half the apps that you use. Like, that's a thing that could happen. And we would remember it like, not like 9/11. It's not like, knock on wood, people would die. But it's like, oh yeah, like everyone who has Google Photos, all those just disappeared tomorrow. Like the social impact of something like that, it's within the realm of believability. So I have some respect. I'm glad there are other people making sure that everything has a self-hosting alternative. I'm also glad that I am not one of those people, speaking in generalities. Here I have contributed a self-hosted thing. So people from that Reddit, a couple of reached out to me and asked for help in getting set up or just sharing comments. I've gotten some very nice, some people are saying wonderful things. Tears streaming down their face. Thank you for this posse party. I've wanted this forever. There's this one post that I saw just as I was scrolling through the sub. It was like the perfect kind of Christmas time extended family IT support rant, paired with the idea that like you're going to give your family all these tools that are running off of a home server. This fella says, started self-hosting 2 years ago with the usual stuff, Pi-hole, Plex, some Docker containers. It was genuinely fun learning how everything worked. Then my family started using these services. My wife relies on the password manager daily, and kids stream from Plex constantly. Suddenly, it's not my hobby anymore. People now depend on it. Now when something breaks at 11 p.m., it's Dad, the internet isn't working because the Pi-hole crashed. Or my wife's locked out of her accounts because the password thing stopped responding. I spent last weekend fixing stuff instead of relaxing because I realized one hard drive failure would destroy everything. Now I understand why sysadmins drink. Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's about the size of it. Just go in eyes wide open. Everything that you self-host, maybe you could cloud host, or maybe you could just like, do I even need this? Like, does this even matter? When I met Aaron, he of the one who does all the puns, I remember he and Gary Bernhardt and I were having some kind of asynchronous conversation about backup strategies. And Gary had like a really sophisticated 3-2-1 strategy using Arc, so he all encrypted and was managing a whatever. And mine was less sophisticated, but I was like leveling up, and Gary was showing me some pointers. And I asked Aaron what he does, because I also, really respect Aaron. And he's like, oh, I just don't back shit up. I was like, what? He's like, well, I choose to be okay with it all disappearing. And my brother kind of is the same way. And honestly, that's a lot less work. Is to just stop caring in the first place, solve the problem at the source. Another tech follow-up, I talked about coil wine, which is not a beverage, but rather the sound that high-end computing devices make when you put electricity in them, and then electric magnetism happens and resonance and yada yada occur. Where I'm looking at it now. I put together this tiny little gaming PC over there, plugged it all in, and then I ran some benchmarks, and it just made an angry robot hissy sound at me. And it was just audible enough that I could never unhear it. And I was like, well, that's a $3,500 component. Do I really return it just to get another one that might make the same whine? And then I'm like, this is Justin Searles we're talking about. Fuck yeah, I do. One click. And then I one-clicked one. Got another $3,500 behemoth graphics card. Plugged that in. Prayed to whatever god I pray to. Turned it on. Ran the benchmark. And guess what? No more coil whine. Runs silent. I'm problem solved. Whenever I do something like that, and I have to, because you send it back, it's now they can't sell the old GPU now as new. Although it does mean I've taken out of circulation one that I wouldn't want somebody to be stuck with anyway if they're spending $3,500 fucking dollars on a graphics card. So I did them a favor. But then you think in terms of the unit economics, whatever their margins are, one assumes that they're not over 50%. And so I've definitely just slurped whatever margin, whatever retailer was going to make off that card. So sorry everybody, but I've got a lot of Amazon returns to get to tomorrow, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. It was a busy holiday season. Another thing, and this is a personal note, I'm still grappling with my relationship. With what do I want to do? Like I mentioned earlier, this podcast is really so that I can stare at myself for a couple hours in a socially acceptable way and just talk. And the fact that you're on the other end sometimes, I assume, I see a little red light, thank God. That's what makes it okay. I remember when I was a kid and, young, like has done sex ed, but hasn't followed up on any of that, if you know what I mean. And I remember being aware of prostitution, being aware of pornography, and then knowing that the first is illegal, but the second, the production is legal, and being like, so if you're saying that prostitution is illegal, but if you turn a camera on, it becomes legal, and watching the adults in the room tap dance away like, no, of course not. It's more complicated than that. And then be like, yeah, there's forms you got to fill out. I'm like, okay, so you turn the camera on, you fill out forms, and then it's legal? And they're like, yeah, oh yeah, basically. Welcome to Earth. I do the podcast, like I said, to work out my own demons, and you're here too. And maybe that does something for you. Either suppresses the voices in your head, or just maybe something I say is useful. If that ever happens, podcast@searls.co, let me know. And I will correct the issue. The newsletter that I write, Searls of Wisdom, is a monthly thing that it kind of became over the 2.5-year run so far. Went from an opportunity to practice the craft of writing and improve my writing chops, which I had let get rusty, and became a bit of a stressor where like halfway through the month, I'd start getting reminders from myself to say, hey, start thinking about what you want to write in the newsletter. And then you draft something, you wouldn't love it, and you tweak it, and you come back to it. Now enough time's passed that you're out of love with the idea, and you get a new idea, and you start another draft. And pretty soon you spent like a day just in a rough draft, and then another day kind of tweaking and iterating. And that was like, a couple of those essays took me like 2.5 serious days of work that could have been spent doing literally anything else. And so I reached a point where it was becoming like the 4th and 5th week of the month before I was getting the newsletter out that was designed to go out at the beginning of the month. And I'm like, I did this to myself. This is a self-imposed cadence and deadline, but at the same time, I do appreciate that it forces me to say something monthly. I just don't need to. I have a bad habit, and I did this when I was giving conference presentations of wanting to outdo myself. If I gave a conference presentation with 300 slides, like let's do 400. If I've made the artwork or the animations like this slick, like let's see if I can invent new animation techniques inside of the Keynote application that do this, or have this, leverage this new transparency or this new tweening or whatever. And I would always try to do something people hadn't seen before, or at least that I hadn't done before when I gave a conference presentation. And eventually you get to the point where a conference presentation no longer takes me a week to prep, but then a month, but then several months. And then it becomes like so this year, the conference presentation idea is X. And at some point, it stops being a thing that you use to share what you're working on and the thing that you're working on. It's like, I'm building this app so that I can give a conference presentation about building an app. Was kind of the last one. And that was me mentally working through that as it was happening and being like, this is really kind of cart before the horse. The aristocrats, like this is the end game. So I quit conference presentations for that reason. It didn't serve me anymore. And it was a huge stressor. I can't do time sync and life is short. The newsletter, I'm not quitting the newsletter, but I did share that I'm not always going to necessarily write a big essay. You'll get the bullet point updates of like, hey, here's the shit that I worked on. Here's maybe a little thought. Here's something useful, a reflection, a memory, a note, but I'm not necessarily going to sit down and try to write a think piece and then just distribute that as an exclusive perk for the, subscribers. But I also might do that. I don't know. I just don't want to have to fucking do it. Yeah. It began to feel like I had assigned myself a term paper every month. And I was like, that sounds fucking dumb when I put it that way. So then I just stopped. So repeating that here now for the record, but as an opportunity for you to maybe ask yourself, like, are you doing anything in your life because you have a vague notion that somebody expects you to do it, and then you trace back and realize that they have that vague notion, even if they do, because you gave it to them? Because you can just give them new notions like, I'm not gonna fucking do that anymore. I'll see you later. And what are they gonna do? Nothing. They're gonna do nothing about it. Other stuff. I have a note here about EDID dummy emulators. You probably don't know what this is, but Windows is really stupid. And so if you want to stream a video stream at a particular resolution with a particular refresh rate with like particular HDR settings, you need to have exactly that matching display plugged into the computer. At which point, then you could stream it with all the settings that you want, which sort of doesn't make any kind of sense because you're actually playing it on some other device when you're streaming it. And I was flummoxed. Like, how do you solve this problem in hardware? And sure enough, there is a entire product category. And so I share this just to say, if you go check out Amazon for a bunch of really funny products, all these little Chinese sourced, you would call them a dongle, but it's really like an end cap for either display ports or HDMI ports. And all they are is just you plug it in. It's a piece of metal with a tiny chip in it that reports, I'm this kind of display, but there's no display there. There's no cable. There's no nothing. It's just you're a little nubbin that you press in there to trick your computer into thinking it has that kind of display connected. And then all of a sudden Windows opens up to you like a flower. It's like, I know Kung Fu. I can do this now. I'm like, it is one of the most classically asked Windows Microsoft created problems. That reminds me, I interviewed at a company called TechSmith in Lansing, Michigan when I was getting out of college. I don't know. I must have known somebody there because the CEO and I sat down in his office and like they did, later they went on to do a tool called, that wasn't Camtasia, that was EMC. I don't know. They did a screenshotting tool. Basically, they were the tool if you want to take screenshots in Windows. The print screen was built in, but then that would just kind of like go to the copy buffer. And then most people just had like Paint installed. And so you're like saving bitmap images manually by pasting in whatever the screenshot button did or print screen button did. God, this is ancient history now. What TechSmith did was they built a screen capture tool. That is what you would expect, right? If you've ever taken a screenshot with any modern operating system. And I remember this is 2007. I remember we were talking about what was the one coming out, Windows Vista. It was still called Longhorn maybe then. And I talked to the CEO. I was like, well, this is like all your revenue, right? He's like, yeah. So what happens when Windows just adds the feature? And he did not love being asked that by some little shit like me. I wonder where they are. Wonder how that worked out for him, because Windows added that, and now you can just hit Windows key Shift S, and take a screenshot. And I've been doing a lot of that lately, because then the very next thing I do is hit Control V into ChatGPT, and I say, what even the fuck do I do? And then ChatGPT be like, stop using Windows. So the last thing I'll share, because it's not news, but it might be useful to you, because I've talked a lot and I've generated a lot of interest, I think, in people who want to use coding agents the sort of asynchronous way I've been doing, where I set them up on a task, they work for however long they work, and then they phone home to me via my watch with a notification saying, hey, job's done. This typically compels me to go back to the computer, open it up, run a test, inspect it visually, and then give it its next prompt or its next instruction. What I've been waiting for is for somebody else to build me an app, a native app on iOS, on iPadOS, a terminal that synchronizes a Claude Code or a Codex CLI session across all my devices, that shows me the text of what the agent is doing, ideally also maybe like what the status of the code base is, so that when I'm like out and about, I can just reply to it and it will, through some encrypted tunnel, continue on the work without me having to be physically at the computer. And since I'm traveling, I was doing a little bit more research, and I don't know how this like failed to come up when I was Googling it, but ChatGPT Pro found it for me. GitHub user Slopus, I don't know, They have a tool called Happy. And you click through happy.engineering, and it's an app, and it does exactly what you think. Syncs up Claude Code, Codex CLI, and it provides a little chat interface. I'm sure it itself was vibe coded, but if it works, that saves me one thing from having to do. And they got a cute little otter as a logo, because I'm sure that's also AI, because of course it is. So check that out if you're in the market. I'm going to be adding that to my to-do list before I get on this plane. Also on my to-do list is I've got this pun to tell you. Aaron sent a pun, and he has been laughing his ass off at it. And I can't wait to hear what it is. I previewed it for Eric earlier. I still have not read it. Eric rubbed on my phone. He rubbed the invisible ink at coffee this morning, and he said it's pretty funny. So I'm okay being anchored because as the opener of season 3, this is the only pun we're going to have. So it's already going to be the number 1. I don't mean to spoil it, but let's just click the button. All right, so if you didn't catch it, Aaron and I did the second annual pun sort. It's on YouTube as well as on the feed as a feature release. We had a good time going through all the puns from 2025. We laughed, we cried, we resorted them, and they were better than the first year's overall, if I had to say. He's improving, and I'm getting better at ranking them. Let's see what 2026 has in store for us. Had to fix our washing machine over the weekend, and I really didn't want to do it. The biggest problem with repairing a washing machine is that you can't just throw in the towel and expect it to work. All right, that's pretty good. I had to fix because it's a length. It's just long enough to force you to get invested in it. That when it disappoints you ultimately at the end, you feel a twinge of pain for having your time wasted. Had to fix our washing machine over the weekend, and I really didn't want to do it. The biggest problem with repairing a washing machine is that you can't just throw in the towel and expect it to work. Yeah, that's the thing about broken washing machines is that they don't work. And if you give up, they continue to not work. So I'll make a new table after the show, but I'll paste that into the puns file, and we'll have that kick off what I hope is a year in productive punnery from our resident punner. And then, without further ado, look, man, like I've been trying to blow through our backlog here. Like I have 45 fucking things in this next news category. I'm not going to subject you to 45 things because I don't think my throat could handle it. Like I'm only one man. But let's stay like on our toes. We'll get through it together. We'll see what's happening in the tech world. It's mostly tech shit. You're going to have your AI shit. You know what to expect at this point, right? I sprinkled in here a couple products you might actually want to pay money for. The first one is one that I gave my money to right away, called Pebble Index 01. So Pebble is back. They've gotten the Pebble guy sold to Google, has since gotten the IP back for the name, as well as convinced Google to open source the operating system. As well as with the DMA and other kind of markets moving towards forcing Apple into better interoperability with wearables and other devices, it's now presaging an era where something like the Pebble, which was, if you don't remember, kind of like a smartwatch before smartwatches, very simplistic, but like quite hamstrung by the limitations of iPhone OS and early iOS. On Android, of course, there's always been many more features, which is why Google was attracted to it in the first place, and when they were acquiring companies like, Pebble and Fitbit. I don't need another smartwatch because the Apple Watch is fine, so I'm not interested in the new Pebbles. However, the Pebble Index 01 is a ring that you wear with a button, a physical button. It's not always listening to you, but you press the button and then you can talk, and then it just logs. It's one of those one of a million AI recordy dinguses. And it's got a handful of features. But what I really want, because Siri is not that, right? Like you can tell Siri, remind me whatever. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, you don't have a list like that named remind, remind me to put this in the shower. Oh, you don't have a list named shower. Do you want me to create it? No, never mind then. Or okay, I won't. That's what it'll say. Okay, I won't. And then it'll just like drop your request on the floor. This thing listens to you and just records for however long it records. And then you can triage and deal with it later in the app. And it uses some on-device LLM shit and some stuff in the app to enhance and figure out what it is you want out of that. And then you can extract it. And then really at the end of the day, that's most of what I want from a wearable. You know, the notifications are nice. Fitness tracking, I kind of don't care about anymore because like I'm pretty boring and I do the same shit every day. What I really want is when I have an idea and I'm not at a computer, I want to not lose it. I want to make sure that that to-do or that reminder or that idea is preserved somehow. And so the idea that you have this little ring on you that can record your voice when you press the button, it's interesting because it's so lightweight, it's so small, it like has a single non-replaceable battery that you never charge, but it lasts for years because of how like low profile and inert it is when it's not being actively used. It's a very, very novel product. So $75 for pre-order. It comes out in March. I don't know, man. With inflation being what it is, what even is $75? Like 5 bananas? I can afford that. If it sucks, it progressively wait. What did we say? Progressive enhancement was what people wanted you to do, but the actual phrase that we used was not graceful degradation. How have I already forgotten this? It becomes a ring. It becomes a plastic ring. So you can put it in the bottom of a Cracker Jack box and give it to a kid. Google's got their new glasses coming out. I'm not going to talk about this much more other than to say XReal, the company that's been making XR AR glasses without a whole lot of use case for anyone other than people who like me who want to use a monitor on their face while without hunching over their laptop. So I've been using the XReal Air 2 for a couple of years. You plug in a USB cable to them, and then you got kind of two postage stamped, screens in front of your face. They've struggled, I think, to break through the niche market that they found themselves in, and they've done a couple of important partnerships. This Google one is one. They also just announced, I didn't grab the link for this, a partnership with Asus's gaming arm ROG to build a kind of a gaming monitor replacement set of glasses. So you can plug them into your gaming PC and then play, or your gaming PC handheld and use that to play. And which I'm already doing with their own other products. I mean, this is not a revelation. You can just, I plug them into my Steam Deck all the time. And yeah, that way, sure, the Steam Deck has an OLED display and it looks really good, but what looks better is like a full field of vision display that's right in front of my screen, my eyeballs, and I don't have to, hunch over to watch it. Yeah, so it was really interesting to see Google partner with them, and I suppose Asus as well, as a way to, again, immature market, but start to build this bridge of all of these just like very obviously compromised devices. None of them are recommendable. Like, would I recommend like a normal person buy the Meta Ray-Bans? Probably not. Not unless they had like a little bit of a gadget lust. Would I recommend somebody buy the XReals? Not unless they like their chiropractor recommended it. You got to be broken in a certain way to want to subject yourself to the degree to which these products are all half-baked, because they all are going to be taking on compromises that are just too much for the mainstream, regardless of their price point. So even though some of these smart glasses are only a couple $100, like there's no correct price if you're never going to use the thing, right? If you're not going to wear that little pebble index ring, better not to buy it. I believe that one of the reasons a lot of these products, though, are taking off and finding an audience is because like hardware and technology and geekery has been so fucking boring ever since the dawn of the smartphone. I remember hearing the phrase convergence device. It's like, oh, your phone's going to be your camera and it's going to be your music player. And people were really excited about that. And I remember like, I like getting to go to Best Buy multiple times a year and get excited about all these different product categories. And it's starting to feel like everything's just going to be phone. Everything's computer. And that's been such a long march, where wearables, you know, in theory, like smartwatch, they give you another thing to buy, no doubt. But I think we're in a sort of an era right now where the category of shit that goes on your face is so nascent, and everyone can see it coming. They can envision the future, but it's the number of steps between where we are today and where we would need to be for it to be a mass market appeal and useful is so far that all these companies are kind of like willing to adopt the compromises that, you know, a geek might be interested in playing with, you know? So yeah, I over the one reason I got so many Amazon returns is I ordered 3 more fucking smart glasses to try the Vitur Luma Pro, which has a 1200p display and supposedly HDR, when really by HDR they just mean, you know, absurdly high color saturation. The Ray Neo Air 3S. These are just nonsense Chinese brands as far as I can tell, but they have different characteristics and like, you know, pros and cons, and I get to try them all on and be like, oh, I like this about this one, I like the audio on this one, and it's been a long time since as somebody who's just sort of like, oh, look, this is what Apple announced, so therefore this is what is going to be purchased by me in passive voice. It's fun to have like a little sense of agency over, like, suddenly you have more gadgets to choose from. Also in Google News, Google/Apple, because of the DMA and all these regulations, they've been pressured to have a better story for moving from one walled garden to the other. So Google last month had released a version of Android, might only be on the Pixels, that lets you more easily move your Google Android life into an iPhone. And then the latest iOS betas, I think it's 26.3, give you a way to more easily migrate your stuff to Android, which is lovely. And I'm not going to do it, but good to know, I guess. Of course, it's only the 2 biggest ones going back and forth. It's not like you can switch to your self-hosted cloud server. Sorry, Reddit. Keeping on the Apple front, the New York Times just did a profile of John Turnus, the VP of Hardware, SVP of Hardware, regardless. 50-year-old youngest executive member, leadership team page person at Apple, considered by many to be the CEO in waiting. Increasing drumbeat of stories that Tim Cook's positioning, posturing, signaling, trial ballooning, whatever you want to call it, a reduction in role for 2026. And the more that you hear those stories, and you like, the New York Times doesn't publish a profile on John Turnus unless Apple PR gave them permission to run it, gave him permission to talk to them, you know? So this is, if Tim Cook wasn't retiring next year, and all of the swirling rumors that John Turnus is the guy, and everyone in the market now has priced in because of the Financial Times story in December, that maybe even November, that looked a lot like it had been a strategic leak to kind of warm the market up to the idea of Tim stepping down. If that was the wrong read, if that wasn't true, if that's not how things are going to play out, Apple probably would not go out of their way to allow New York Times to profile said individual. So the fact that they did isn't proof that John Turnus is going to be CEO at some point next year or soon. But it's a pretty strong indication that at least right now, that's where the winds are blowing. So it's interesting. And I like change. I like new stuff. I like new stuff to talk about. I like what they've done with hardware lately. I like the idea of a product person over an ops person who gives a fuck about maybe design and how things work and geeks out about devices, you know? It makes me optimistic. He seems very likable and attractive in the videos. That's great. Uh, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I don't care a whole lot about Apple's like corporate intrigue, other than to say I believe that after a certain point, part of its age, part of its that old Gary Weinberg quote of like, when you're a consultant, if you're at a client too long, it's like you're a cucumber who goes into the brine, goes into the salt and vinegar of the client environment, and eventually you got to watch out or you'll get pickled. And at that point, you don't have any sort of outsider value to that client anymore. You're just one of them after a certain point. You get into this sort of status quo in your job. You reach this kind of inertia, like same executive team for 10 years. It's like a novel stimulus comes in, a new situation comes in. Everyone's going to be doing the same pattern matching. They're all going to be looking to the same person in a similar enough situation to be like, we kind of know how. So they have a playbook, whether it's explicit or implicit, kind of emerges. And sometimes that playbook turns out you guys always had the right answers to every question. More often, it means that by having that calcification, especially in the executive team at a really large company that doesn't have a lot of turnover typically, it means that you have blind spots that become just as entrenched as the cow paths that are actually working really, really well, scaling the company, growing and solving problems in a routine basis. And having a new leader come in and probably some other leadership team members join as not as a shakeup, but just as a natural, course of events with the inevitability of aging and dying and all that jazz. It's an opportunity to change shit. You could say make things better, fix things. A lot of people don't like Tim Cook for all kinds of reasons, whatever. Or the current, people always have bones to pick with companies. And if you're one of the top 5 companies, you got to be able to take it. I think that regime has run long enough now that it would be interesting to see a modified approach. And so I'm excited. Seems like a good guy. We'll just have to see how next year shakes out. Speaking of Apple hardware, these rumors that the AirPods Pro are going to see an update with an IR camera, an infrared camera, as opposed to the, what I was describing earlier of like having a little endoscopic looking little camera on a flexi stick or something. Not like that, but something that would be able to sense gestures in front of you, one presumes. So you could make little like sign languagey motions and have it, I don't know, pause, take a call, hang up, mute. That rumor came back again. But with it was the idea that it would, with that change, they would remove the ability to physically click and swipe the stem of the AirPod to pause and to change volume, or to press and hold it to activate Siri and change noise control. And to that, I say, fuck that noise. Fuck that noise very much. As somebody who uses a Vision Pro, which I guarantee is going to have a better suite of sensors than whatever IR thing is on that AirPods Pro, the Vision Pro's inability to detect me when I'm clicking shit, even right in front of the face of the cameras and the sensors. There are times, certain lighting conditions, I don't know, the operating system being in a funk where no amount of clicking my fingers together does the thing. I have to connect to a keyboard or a mouse or even these PSVR2 controllers, and then suddenly it works because physical buttons. So realizing that when you click the stems on your AirPods Pro to play pause, that's not actually a button. It's just like a pressure sensor that makes a sound. That's got to be more reliable, one assumes, than doing some interpretive dance with your fingers in front of your face. A lot of face stuff today. Only other JP Morgan, Chase, they've agreed to take on the apparently toxic asset of all of our Apple Card statements. It's just funny to me that, like, on one hand, so what happens? Goldman Sachs signs up for this because they wanted to get into consumer banking. They realized right away that they didn't really want to be in consumer banking because it's kind of a shit business and it's way better to be a highly speculative investment bank like they are. that consumer banking is actually like the worst part of being a bank from the bank's perspective. But I suspect what they did was they were like, oh, wow, iPhone users are way higher income. The profit share of the iPhone and of the iPhone services app store is so much higher than what Google gets, where it's like you look at like the socioeconomic status of iPhone users and it's the cream of the crop. So Goldman Sachs probably thought that's what they were getting into. The problem was that Apple, by pursuing low fees, low penalties, and non-discriminatory, relatively wide open, permissive credit checks for who can qualify to get an Apple Card, was very, very non-selective. And what that resulted in, apparently, is a lot of people who were not particularly creditworthy being able to get Apple Cards, ring up huge balances, and then not pay those balances. And so the delinquency rate and the non-payment rate for Apple Card is actually much higher than other cards. And Goldman Sachs wasn't prepared for that. And so they actually had to sell the debt at a discount, like a whole $1 billion that they're just going to have to eat. Normally, like if it's a good debt, you might sell it at a premium, right? Because it's like a bond. It's like yielding X percentage points. And so whatever the face value is, you'd put a little bit of sugar on that and another bank would buy it. Here, they actually had to like mark it down because they know how bad the situation is with so many people carrying this Apple Card debt that they can't charge as usurious of APRs and fees on, and that they know aren't going to get paid back. So JP Morgan Chase has agreed to take that on. They're going to keep it, even though most Chase cards, my understanding is most of them are Visa cards. At least all the ones that I've ever had from Chase are Visas. They're going to keep it on the MasterCard network. It probably won't be a noticeable difference for most users, and the transition is going to take a year and a half. But I think that the thing that's not getting reported that I think is most interesting about this is the Apple Card, like Apple News Plus and a lot of these other services, are still US only products. And maybe the Apple Card has released in a couple other territories, like maybe the UK. I don't think it has. I know it's not in Japan. That's the one I track, of course, the most. It seems to me like Apple has an opportunity. Like anytime Apple does anything that only serves the US market, it just feels off to me for being such a global company. So maybe JP Morgan Chase and their massive fucking network will enable Apple to expand into more territories. Because when you have the Apple Card plugged into all of your Apple shit, like from a friction perspective, now that the phone wants us to pay in 85 different ways all the time, it's just a way more pleasant experience than before the Apple Card existed. So we'll see. The other product I sprinkled in here that you might want to buy that is also not available yet, a company called Clicks. They're releasing like a neat BlackBerry-like product that I don't give a fuck about because I don't need another fucking phone. And they're releasing a BlackBerry-like keyboard that connects to MagSafe. I'm doing the Kendrick Lamar like scoff and then point meme. Like, I don't need the communicator, but this power keyboard looks rad. For a few reasons. It's a Bluetooth keyboard that's on, off. You put it on the MagSafe thing. It clips open. It closes. It connects to MagSafe. It actually has a battery on it itself. So you can use it as your spare battery, which solves a problem that people already have anyway. And because it has the battery, it uses Bluetooth to connect to up to 3 devices. So you could imagine having that in your bag, connecting it to your phone to either charge the phone or to like have it just cradle there so you can actually type something out that requires a physical keyboard. And you, like most people, might think, I don't have any reason to need a physical keyboard on my phone. But like me as a neckbeard Unix user who self-hosts things, I actually do have a reason. Because like, take this happy engineering thing where I want to manage my Claude code. I might want to use special characters and symbols that are just like harder to hammer out with the software keyboard. So yeah, I'm very interested. Additionally, the software keyboard on iPhone might be great, but it's really, really ass when I'm on my Vision Pro. That software keyboard, no matter how many pinchy pinches, no matter how you hunt and peck through that thing, is slow as fuck. So being able to have that same device that's on my phone with me anyway, with a Vision Pro handy, I can use that to type something out. Literally typing a URL can take me 30 seconds on the Vision Pro. So having this thing paired, just like a simple button to switch between which paired device I'm talking to, it's a no-brainer. And this is also like currently $70. What's the pre-order price? $79. What even is $79? Like I'm saying, like if you're not going to use it, don't buy it. But I don't know. One to skip a few. I was going to go through the video game awards and the announcements there, and the short version is: remember that year Titanic won all the Oscars? It was like that for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, that French Japanese RPG. Cleaned house, won 9 awards or whatever, dominated the award categories. Now, like the Video Game Awards is not like the Academy of Arts and Sciences or some shit for video games. It's like a dude named Jeff Keighley and his events production company. They bought the rights from Spike TV, I want to say, or whatever the fuck, because he used to host it there. And it's this like abortion of like crappy, hypersexualized, like basically they wanted to make a cable award show that was like the VMAs, but way worse than the VMAs because it was on like a cut rate cable channel. And how do you make a show about video games that's going to be mainstream and seem cool? Well, don't show video games, show sexy ladies and rappers and B-tier celebrities and shit, and keep people entertained. Jeff Keighley takes that over and he runs it now, and it's not that anymore, but it's also not high art. Like it's not the people who vote on it. They're what's left of the games journalism industry and stuff. And as these things go, it is the most respectable award that you could get inside of the very weird gaming industry. But it just gave me the idea that like with Expedition 33 cleaning house, and with the number of game adaptations that are actually starting to win awards, like Last of Us and the Fallout series, and a lot of them doing better, it made me realize that, you know, to ECOT, to win the Emmy and the Oscar, what's the C again? Oh, EGOT, right? Yeah, EGOT. I said ECOT. Silly. Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, right? This was a concept, as far as I know, invented in the sitcom 30 Rock, when Tracy Jordan has this idea that he wants to win all 4. And then, of course, it becomes a meme and somebody actually does, and that's really great. Well, what if you could VGOT, is my point. Now that the Video Game Awards has enough traction, hundreds of millions of people watch it, supposedly, stream it, mostly for the trailers of upcoming shit. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about the first VGOT. But yeah, I'll spare you the other discussion of who won shit and why and whether it matters. Speaking of video games, fella posted to the Steam subreddit. He made a game called Hydroneer years ago, and I just want to link to this because it's so cute. Over 5 years ago, I launched Hydroneer on Steam. They still send us chocolates from France every year. And apparently, if your game makes like $900,000 in annual sales revenue on any given year, they're going to send you chocolates at Christmas. The store, the Steam PC game store. Why? I don't know. It's just delightful. This is one of the nice things about privately held companies is you can just do shit like that. Here's a fruit basket. Thanks for being part of the story. You know, it's not profit sharing, but we were just talking about how like even with silly little costs like that, the profit per employee there is in the millions of dollars. So good on them. PC World has a sort of a doomsaying editorial that is partly based in fact and reporting that there's a real possibility NVIDIA just decides, why do we make gaming cards anymore when they take a lot of R&D, a lot of support, and the B2B enterprise market is so much juicier and it literally orders of magnitude more revenue for us, more profit for us They're just a differently shaped company than they were before. People talk about like Apple, right? Like it's like, well, the Tim Cook era is this, but boy, the Steve Jobs era is so much better. It's like you're not comparing apples to, well, you are. You're not comparing apples to apples. It's the Apple that exists today is literally 10 times bigger in most ways, in most respects, than anything that you remember from the Steve Jobs era. It's just like they're not comparable things. And NVIDIA, as it exists today, as being the behemoth biggest company in the world, is not the company that was making the 1080 Ti 7-8 years ago. Like a different organization between the crypto boom and AI and everything. So a lot of people, I think, are spooked, given that DRAM prices have shot through the roof, that Micron, the people who make Crucial memory, have just decided to exit the consumer business altogether, which isn't a problem, except there's only 3 companies that make fucking RAM on Earth. If you are a gamer, it's so funny because the one moment that like PC gaming takes off as being the authoritatively best way to play games, where like every Microsoft game goes to Xbox and to PC on day one. Every major hallmark PlayStation game is going to PC, even if it's on a tape delay. Increasingly, the next generation of consoles is looking more and more like a PC that interops with the different platforms. And if at that moment where the PC gaming is finally successful, right? This open infrastructure, von Neumann architecture, you plug and play different components. It's just a matter of what RAM and CPU and graphics card you have. If at that moment everything falls apart because it's so much less lucrative to the hardware makers than just more AI data centers, that's an oopsie. So add to that, speculation in another article, and this is pretty depressing, suggested that the 5090 might actually increase in price to $5,000 and just keep going up. Remember, this is a card that retailed, the Founders Edition, when it launched only a year ago, at $1,999 and has basically never been available at that price. To see that more than double just because of the cost of the components and the opportunity cost to go and do literally anything else than to produce these things. On top of that, another report comes out saying NVIDIA is going to reduce the supply of GPUs. Basically, RAM is so expensive and RAM is such an important component of even the lower performance tier cards that it's like there's no longer a market reason to do the lower tier cards. Why have a budget card or why have a mid-tier card if you're going to sell out of all the RAM you got anyway? Just only make the high-end cards. And so it creates an environment where it's like, well, boy, the high end is really too expensive and there is no low end anymore unless you're willing to buy an Intel card or maybe an AMD card. But like, it's one example, and this was true during the crypto craze where you just could not buy shit, right? Because you had these people who were like buying everything at retail, shucking them for parts and then shipping them overseas to go and fill Bitcoin farms. I'm looking at my PC right now. I'm really glad that I fixed that coil whine problem when I did. I really hope nothing happens to my sweet baby gaming PC, because it sounds like I'm going to be holding on to it for a while. If you haven't already and you're interested in building a gaming PC, like, now's probably the time. This is inflationary thinking. This is why inflation is dangerous, right? If you believe that your money is going to become less valuable, you spend it all now. And that's good in the very, very short term. And not good in the long term, because why invest it? Racks of AI chips are too damn heavy. So I just flagged this because it's something that makes complete sense when you think about it for more than 10 seconds, but why would you? Data centers are not created equal. So like a data center, I think of as a warehouse, and you plug in inputs and outputs, right? You got the networking cables that go in, come out. You've got power, goes in, comes out. Huge physical plant. You need to cool it, right? And you think those are the basic components. The AI data centers, the utilization of those servers, the weight, physical weight and size and power demands are so much higher that it's not just that you take out the old data center servers and you put in these new ones. It's like the floor was built with insufficiently robust concrete or whatever, or supports or struts, or I don't know construction words, trusses, there's a word, that you couldn't even physically have the floor hold how heavy these fucking NVIDIA servers are. Forget about power. Forget about cooling. Forget about like the network capacity. So a lot of these AI data centers are just too damn heavy to integrate into any existing data center like that exists. And as the world is rushing to build new ones, we realize like, well, I guess that means every company that's building these is inventing a way to build these, because none of them have done it before, because none of them have ever needed to. So when you talk about these hyperscalers, like, which one is having, it was a Blue Owl or CoreWeave. I know it had one get delayed because of rain and they couldn't pour concrete for a long time. Like, when they run into problems, it's being framed as a temporary glitch, as a road, a bump in the road, a speed bump. When in fact, it could just be like, they told us they'd be able to build this, and it turns out they are not competent, not able to, have not invented the necessary components, have not sourced the materials or the contractor capabilities to be able to actually deliver this stuff. And, the only thing worse than spending tens of billions of dollars on something that ends up not being worth it or not profitable is you spend that money and then you still don't even get the thing. So I think failure to deliver data centers is going to probably be one of many very depressing storylines in 2026. Call that a prediction. That news comes out just like a little bit before CES, where Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO, goes on stage and he starts talking about the new Vera Rubin chips. Now, granted, like, these are not quite new chips. It's the first kind of marketing push for them, but there's stuff that NVIDIA was talking about 6 months ago. The difference is like, yes, they're more efficient, but with all those efficiency gains are just going towards even higher, performance and even higher energy demands. And the thing that's not spoken about on the show floor, in the keynote, I haven't seen any of the analysis of, but I've asked ChatGPT to do math for me in one of the existing very heavy data centers. Like, is it possible that these Vera Rubin chips are like possibly going to be too heavy or too power demanding to not actually be compatible with even the data centers that are being built today? Don't have an answer to that question, but it didn't rule it out. That even brand new data centers that are built for H100s will have to be significantly retrofitted, not just for the B200s, but the ones built for the B200s are whatever, like if we talk about, and was it Michael Burry, the big short guy? He starts talking about like, none of these people are thinking about like, they're thinking like about these investments like software people, because that's where most of these VCs and PE people made all their money. Software has a zero marginal cost of selling the next one. And we for tax reasons, we call software development CapEx, capital expenditures. But really that capital expenditure is like, you're paying a dude to write code, right? You're not paying for like anything physical to get built. So depreciation and amortization, when you're thinking in terms of R&D for software, it's an accounting trick. It's a way to articulate like what a long-term investment looks like and how to factor that in relative to revenues for a company so that you can calculate a profit that is long-term enough as to be meaningful. But depreciation and amortization of physical assets that actually do become less valuable over time is just a totally different thing. And you think about that and you think, oh yeah, like these H100s 5 years later, like Jensen Huang's on stage being like, oh yeah, this is all going to be worthless. He's moderated his tone a little bit, like, oh yeah, you don't even need one of these anymore. It's like, that's the thing you were selling a year ago that you still haven't managed to deliver to most of the customers who ordered them. And you're telling them that their thing is already useless. This pipeline of build an innovation that doesn't even plug into the thing that you just are in the process of building to house the GPUs that you still haven't had delivered, right? It almost feels like things are going to come to a head this year, and I'm here for it. In actual like AI utility news, not a lot new has happened. Not slow month, I guess. Incremental model releases. ChatGPT image generation went from 1.0 to 1.5. It's interesting. The demo page is interesting because you can see how it's stickier. It's able to like edit particular things inside of an image without just redoing the whole thing. It's significantly faster. If you're in the web interface or the desktop interface, you can actually ask it to generate multiple image requests simultaneously, concurrently, and they'll show up kind of when they're done. It's a lot better, but it's not closer to being good enough. That's the thing that keeps killing me about all the image generation, all the video stuff, is like, it's so much better than it just was. But immediately it's like, nope, it's not good enough. Because like it can change that one part of the image, but you ask it 3 or 4 times, keep on tweaking because you're never quite happy with it, and now it's forgotten that first part of the image, right? Like I was doing like a 7-panel strip of myself. Like give me one of me for every day of the week and illustrate it. And then of course, first time out comes back with 6 panels instead of 7. I was like, you forgot Saturday. And it puts in Saturday. I'm like, okay, great. Then I realized that my little cartoon character is literally missing from the panel on Tuesday. I'm like, okay, I'm missing from the panel on Tuesday now. And then it just straight up replaces me with a blonde guy on Friday. I'm like, okay, I'm playing whack-a-mole at this point. The other ChatGPT thing, and this is in the personalization settings, if you, like me, don't want to get red pilled or contract the AI psychosis, you can now, that's where you turn off things like chat history and memory retention, which I recommend anyone do. You can also now adjust the personality settings a little bit in a more fine-grained way in specifics. Here I'll say less, more, less. So if you go into the settings, that's what you want to set. How warm and I guess empathetic and touchy-feely do you want it to be? You can make it more, default, or less. I want it less. How enthusiastic do you want it to be? How boisterous and excited to be there? Less is the right answer. How many headers and lists do you want? I don't know. Season to taste, but for me, I like more. I like bullet points that I can quickly digest. And then how many emoji do you want? The correct answer to that is less, because none is not an option. But, you know, it's hidden in that personalization thing. Flagging it, because if that, you know, whizzed past you, it's worth going back and turning that on if you're a fellow user of ChatGPT. The other thing that came out is like app integration, and people are saying that the best one of these, like the best app that you can use on ChatGPT in terms of the highest quality implementation that actually works, is Instacart. And I tried using it to order groceries. I think I mentioned this last time around. I tried again. It's like extremely broken. It is. We have such a long way to go, guys. It feels like the very first time like Tesla Autopilot gets announced, and you know how we're on year 9 now of like just a couple of weeks, and then you can do it unsupervised and just let the car drive you. And it's like, I don't know, man. I think we got a lot of fundamental problems to solve, and I don't think you've got enough financial runway to solve them all before we get to the point where I'm going to trust this with my grocery order. Much less, hell, I would trust it just to try it if I could get to the fucking end of the process of clicking a button to make food come at my face. Closing the loop on industry stuff with AI. Ed Zitron, I don't know. He writes really long fucking newsletters about AI. If this was somehow not enough for you, his end of the year synopsis of 2025 in arrears, called The Enshita Financial Crisis. I don't love the phrase enshitification. I think it's just overdone. Whatever. It's 19,000 words. I recommend hitting the show reader in Safari and then the listen to page and just like listening to it like an hour-long podcast. It's good. It is a good artifact of this moment, because he's going to either be right or be wrong, that we are coming to a head. That like a lot of these functional mechanisms in how AI gets funded, how it's being deployed, and the expectations of any company that operate in this ecosystem, the check is coming due for a lot of this stuff. And you might ask like, well, I don't know, Amazon ran unprofitably for like 20 years by just taking every single red penny that came in as revenue and after their cost of goods sold, reinvesting it in the business and growing their enterprise, right? And that's true. And then eventually they turn on the profit spigot and all of a sudden the dream did come true and investors are glad that they wrote it out. The difference here is for the venture capitalists to get the exit that they want, like the fundamentals of the business have to be good enough that you can find a greater fool that you can sell that stock to. And if the bloom comes off the rose and suddenly like the unit economics of these AI companies does not improve and does not improve on the schedule promised, their value as an asset goes down. And the idea of doing an IPO is suddenly unacceptable because you would do that. You would have the stock hit the stock market and probably crash on day one because it's not a good investment, right? Unless you can hype it up. And which is one reason why we're probably starting to see like secondary markets emerge. So he talks about that a bunch. I have a pull quote here that I'm going to skip. And a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm going to skip, actually. Come to say, life is short. Lot of discussion about AI and the impact on jobs. We've got, just to give you an idea, companies generating 200,000 AI podcasts every month. Like several percent of the podcast episodes that release every month are generated by AI. That's fantastic. Apparently, if you spend $1 to generate a podcast in compute, you only need 25 listeners to make it up in dynamically inserted ads. So you just need 25 idiots to be made whole on your bullshit AI podcast, which makes me feel like it's almost like the dark web. Like it's going to happen around us because it's not like there's like the internet can only fit so many podcasts in it. But like there's going to be just enough of an audience for this slop. It's like people who earnestly respond to spam emails about Nigerian princes and stuff, or get stuck in these pig butchering schemes. Not that absurd, but like people without taste, people who are not discerning, who just like, turn on whatever comes back on Spotify when they type in a search query. All it takes is a handful, and suddenly it makes sense for these companies, at least now at the prices that they pay to get access to these GPUs that no one can afford or fit into their data centers. Another one, I'm going to share the links to these because like this one's talking about creatives, like copywriters reveal how AI has decimated their industry. Another one about how Stanford grads are really upset because like they went to fucking Stanford and they deserve a goddamn job after their computer science career, to which I say, nobody owes you shit, motherfucker. I'll share that one. The godfather of SaaS, a fellow named Lemkin. I don't know him. I don't know his people. I don't know what he's about. But he's replaced most of his sales team with agents where basically like, we think of this on the factory line, but like you take your agent who's the best at the inbound lead handling of your SaaS product, and then you just train AI agents on that. Rinse, repeat, and now you've got an army of that guy just spamming the universe. So on the supply side, we've been talking for a while about, hey, when you can just vibe code together a lightweight little SaaS app, we thought the App Store was bad for driving down to zero the price of an app and what you could reasonably charge and expect people to pay. Like on the demand generation side of like how now, like if you thought B2B email was bad and you were having to ignore or send a spam lots and lots of emails every day, the more that we have AI agents actually like, with their own little kind of, entire desktop workstation, or they're not just generating a bunch of emails, but like they're multimodal in the sense of like these same agents are able to retain a context where they can be texting you and calling you and emailing you and following up and chatting, and then using cross third-party cookies to find you in other spots and be like, hello, Carol, it's creepy shit. We're super fucked. Another story, New York City has banned smartphones for kids, and the teachers realize that kids don't know how to read clocks. Like we stopped at some point stopped having to know how to read an analog clock. And that's what's in the classroom. So that's creating a problem. Another one about how, thanks to a combination of Common Core in the blue states and redneck illiteracy in the red states, has resulted in a state of affairs where I think it was a plurality of K-12 kids will never be asked to read a novel from beginning to end in your entire primary and secondary educations, which seems kind of like giving up. That's throwing in the towel, I would say, on the short attention spans that we've all, curated for ourselves. If anything, I'd be like, all right, we're all gonna just wear these go up to a monastery, put on this frock and shave our heads, and we're gonna do nothing but read books to try to heal. Let's see. Skipping. Boy, I don't have the energy to even talk about Grok right now and how people are able to just generate all the kiddie porn that they want. And then it's not even just that it's in the app, like in a private space where you're generating kiddie porn and saving it to your camera roll or whatever the fuck, which is bad. Don't do that. And Elon shouldn't have a company called XAI that lets you do that. That all of that is literally illegal and unacceptable. But that by default, you can do it for free by just tweeting at a thing that'll then respond with the kiddie porn also in the open. The only reason your boss isn't seeing it necessarily is you're using an alt account or he's not on X anymore. I've not been logged into X for a long time, and I'm kind of glad I haven't been. But cool to see that App Store rules about nudity are being fairly and judiciously, equitably enforced as X remains near the top of the charts in all these different fucking platforms. Fuck's sake. I'm going to call that. You will receive in your show notes some subset or superset of hyperlinks as I forget which of these I actually talked about versus not. I'm getting tired. Are you getting tired? Is it the weekend yet? It's Friday. Let's move on to some recommendations. What are we going to do this weekend? I rock through these. Still playing Outer Worlds 2. Still a good game. It's still one of those. You go around the map. You take quests. You go to the place. You shoot the thing. You pick up the thing. You go back to... It's good. I don't know. Ball X Pit is maybe my favorite game that I've played in a while. It's like ball times pit. Basically, you got balls that you can shoot, and you're going down a pit. And it is more complicated than that, but it's also exactly that simple. It's like Breakout meets Vampire Survivors. Nice, simple thing. Mega Bonk is another game just like it that came out last year. And I'm in the mood for just some mindless, repetitive, something to play on a plane while I'm listening to an audiobook. So check that out. I had a lot of fun with it. I am having fun with it. Having less fun with the final season of Stranger Things. I think we just have the finale left. And I don't know, man. It just seems like not that good. Becky keeps joking that it's like a very earnest Ready Player One that isn't aware that it's just pop culture references to other shit, but it totally is. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So we'll just point at the screen oh, that's the Matrix. Yeah, it's just... It's not like Lost where they didn't know what they were going to do and then it kind of just fell off the rails. It's just... There is a horse, and it's been dead for a few seasons, and they continue to beat it. And it will be over soon. But first, we got to get through this last 2 hours. I don't know. When this is done, Netflix is really just going to be Emily in Paris all the way down. Bridgerton, kind of pulpy reality TV that talking about unit economics, documentaries about weird things Mormons do, right? stuff that generates the eyeballs and actually is what people, the revealed preferences of people just given the home screen, will watch that shit and spend a lot more time on it than who will watch prestige television. So I am grateful for Apple TV. I can't wait till they start taking ads and we see that erode. My favorite, I talked about a couple different subreddits. I don't recommend you go and hang out at those subreddits. My favorite one that I found is r/, and I'll link to this, real or AI. And it is exactly what it sounds like. AI images and video have gotten so good that people, even people who are like skeptical, you know, I'm imagining that really old meme from like, the year 2000 of like a guy in a server room saying like, this looks like a shop. I've seen a lot of shops in my day, Photoshop. And you can tell by looking at the pixels. So they'll post, hey, help needed. Here's an image. Here's a video. Is this real or not? And then there's a bot in the subreddit, I don't know, 12 hours or whatever. And basically it's like, it'll tally up the number of commenters who think it was AI versus real. And you'd think every single one of these is going to be a 90-10 split. There's a surprising number where at the end of voting, it's like 55 or 60% think it's AI or don't. And those are the people who like have opted into a Reddit to scrutinize this shit to see if they think it's real or fake. And granted, there's an element of that where you could just kind of get stuck in your own head about it, right? Like you're overthinking it. And so maybe they do get a little over-torqued, like because it's like a multiple choice questions, right? It's like, well, C is the really easy answer. So certainly it's not C. So you're trying to like, am I being outsmarted here by this poster? Because maybe they know whether something's real or fake and they're kind of like testing me, right? So there's that meta thought that might be going on with sickos like me who are in the subreddit. I've not actively voted. I don't consider myself an expert. But the fact we're already at the point where like, you know, I don't call it like a Turing test sort of thing for slop. People can't tell if a video is of shit that really happened or not. Mildly concerning. This is next one, not a recommendation. Something I was just going to mention. You read the news about Grok and all of the child porn that it's generating. Opinions aren't mixed. People feel pretty strongly that that's a bad thing. You go to Grok's subreddit and they're ready to start a goddamn revolution because they feel like their sexy Grok keeps getting nerfed. Like, here, look at this old one that it did. It was like super sensual and hypersexualized and just what the doctor ordered. And now look at what it does now with the same prompt. It's all dumb, and they made it dumb, and they took away my cool porn generation device. And I didn't. Weirdly, I think everything that I saw posted there was safe for work. I don't know if I have like the filter turned on, and I'm glad. Safe for work is a subjective term. I would not, if I was trying to get any work done, I would not be there. It's depressing, but unsurprising, which is a great banner image for this fucking decade. I was talking about different smart glasses. If you were following that discussion and you're interested in a pair of glasses that is not too expensive to plug into a computer or a phone or a Steam Deck and to use as your primary display, I tried $500 ones. I tried $300 ones. I tried $100 ones. One I would recommend is the Ray Neo Air 3S. It is the least bad of the ones that I tried. For the dollar. So they retail at $299. I'll link to it. But you can very often find them available for $199. And at that price, not to say it's no $70 impulse buy, but if you're going to use it as your display and you consider how much monitors cost, like good ones, especially if you travel a lot, or if you need to use a laptop on a plane, trying to like do that with like a tray table is a fucking pain in the ass, even if you've got a great display and a great neck. Even if your neck can take it, the angle just might not work out. And so having these glasses when traveling is just awesome. Let's see, other shows. I've been watching a few different things. We're almost done with our Mad Men rewatch, which is going to open up the door. Just lots of new shit. Can't wait. It takes Becky and I a long time to get through a series. I watched season 1 of Murderbot, the only season that's out. And it's not a hyper-violent show about murdering people. The name is sort of a self-referential joke inside of this series of novels and yada yada, and it's heady and it's kind of a dark comedy, but like everyone told me it gets a lot better after the first few episodes, and I was like, all right, it's gonna get better, and then I kept watching it, and I was like, oh, well, let's see, it takes a few to get ready, and then I was like, I wonder if it's there yet, and then the season ended. So if you like Murderbot, you liked it at some point before I thought we were maybe getting to the good part. Because I don't know. It just seems it didn't do much for me. Even though it's sci-fi and even though it's ostensibly a dark comedy, I don't. If you see the appeal, email me, podcast@surrealist.co, and tell me about it, because I feel like I'm missing something. What else do I recommend? I don't know. I found this thing that lets you play subtitles called UDcast. It's like an app that's supposedly an international standard, but it seems to be only for like Japanese film and TV. Provided as a service by the film entertainment industry in Japan, where you can download the app, download subtitles in different languages for whatever show you're watching, and then you can just simply turn on the microphone and it'll sync up the audio. It knows what the audio sounds like at every timestamp through some sort of audio fingerprinting thing, like a Shazam in reverse. Shazam, no, it's the same flow as Shazam, but just like lands you in the right point and synchronizes the subtitles. So you have a way to watch subtitles even on a device that doesn't support it, or if you're in a theater or something. And so there's a video on to rent in Japan, and there's no subtitles available on the streaming platform. Well, it's on this UDcast app. So I don't know if you watch foreign films at all or Japanese anime or whatever. Like there's a whole fan sub community, and the movie I wanted to watch isn't on that either because it's not some otaku anime waifu bullshit. It's like a real fucking movie. No offense. It makes me wonder why the fan sub community is so. I don't know. Probably because they're writing English subtitles for things that aren't. I realize now that usually what I want is Japanese subtitles so I can. Anyway, I don't know. You're the one who wanted the fucking recommendations, and I tried to think on my feet, and this is what we get. Let's check the mail.
You've got mail.
Marius writes, doing my civic duty and emailing the podcast, which I think is a reply to self from the last time he did this. Yeah, in August. I see the whole thread here. Just a quick FYI related to Posse Party. I just stumbled upon this, and he links to postopus.com. If you click Postopus, which is spelled Postopus, you see a cute octopus, and he's holding up a Facebook and an X and an Instagram and a LinkedIn. Write once, post everywhere, and it looks kind of like looks very much like a Buffer clone, and it seems like you type into it, and then and so it's more. Yeah, this is more like a Buffer, really. Because you schedule the post and it's for like the social media manager. Now that I look at it, I thought that it supported feeds. Does it not? I assumed that's why. No, I don't think it does. So the difference here is, yeah, this is like a thing you log into to write your social media posts as opposed to a thing to like relay and syndicate your social media posts. So that's one difference. Anyway, just to finish the email anyway, in case I'm missing the point. I'm sure there are other tools out there already, but this one seems to be new, at least according to their data on TrustMRR. I don't know what that is. Is that a website that categorizes startups? Seems kind of like Product Hunt-y. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to sound dismissive, Marius. I'm just unprepared. P.S. Great work with the show. Keep it up. I am kind of start to worry because there's no episode for 3 weeks already. Yeah, we get it. I'm here now. Hello. Hi. I read your email. Please send more of them. Aaron, a different Aaron, writes in, Aloha. Wait a second. Did I read his? Yes, I read this email already. It's about Starlink. Well, I've already sent my Starlink unit back. and I've been approved for a refund. Andrew writes in with feedback about both version 48 and 48.1. The follow-up for the last major release here, the Hollow Easter Bunny. I was complaining about how Easter bunnies always looked so great, but then I found out the chocolate was hollow. When I wanted solid chocolate, I wanted to really sink my teeth into something. He says, the Hollow Easter Bunny is a feature, not a bug. You break off a concave piece and just slop peanut butter all over that bad boy. You can't do that with solid bunnies. Fucking watch me, is all I have to say to that. You can put peanut butter on a lot of things, and the fact that it's like a solid chunk of chocolate with peanut butter, that's not gonna stop this guy. I'll tell you that much. The macros might be better, but only barely. If you're at the point where you're eating a chocolate Easter bunny, like, you're not thinking about the health aspects beyond a certain point, one would assume. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate. Hey, there's no wrong. I was gonna say no wrong opinions, but like, I will count this opinion as valid in the court of Searle's law. For version 48.1, he says, I was the listener that wrote in about the camera pun being about focus instead of clicking. Thank you. I was trying to impress upon Aaron that the verb to click was kind of being overused and insufficiently specific to camera-ing. For the historical record, I listen at 1.2x speed. All right. Yeah. So that. Thank you, Andrew, for your contributions. I am realizing now I don't have a lot of useful stuff to say. I'm out of practice because I let a whole month go by. I'm not going to do that again until next month, I swear. Brian writes in, what a surprise to see your video stories at the top of your page. How can I see more of them? Do they get stored under one of your navigation elements on the left? Brian, you have discovered wisps. These are my story-like posts. They're not posts. They're self-deleting photos and videos that I post to via Git to the blog. They're hosted on S3, so the video files are there somewhere, but they're not linked after 24 hours or 48 hours. And the idea was just like a little Easter egg. You know, if I want to post a picture and I don't necessarily want to make a big stink about it or have it clog up the RSS feed or whatnot or distract people. I'm going to be in Japan, for example, next week. I'm going to be at a lot of restaurants, and instead of having a separate Tabelog review, kind of like blow up all my social media, I'm probably going to be posting a lot of little photos and pictures and videos of stuff that I'm doing there, especially because I have those, thanks to Becky and Jeremy, those totally bitchin' Meta Ray-Ban glasses that I'll be able to record video as I walk around. So I'm probably going to be posting a lot more of those. And yeah, I mean, if you follow Searles on Instagram, you'll see them just like on Instagram story, because Posse Party can, thanks to the magic of AI coding shit for me, it can post stories. But also at the top of the website, I have a little custom player. And of course, because of that zero marginal cost for copy pasting software, I have copy pasted the software onto beckygraham.com as well. So Becky's blog has story support as well. And she uses it more than me because she's got more to say. Yeah, clicking through now. Aw, a very nice picture of a cookie. I was actually there with her at the Glass Knife, which is apparently a very nice bakery in Winter Park, just yesterday. Wow, and here's a video of a sunset, also on beckygraham.com, which you should totally check out. And that's at the restaurant that we were just at last night, Hillstone, also in Winter Park, and it was really good. And then her, then it's just some granola. But that was Instagram at its best, right? It's just like post pictures of chicken salad sandwiches. So, Brian, there's not an archive. I'm not going to bother with that. Maybe someday. I'm not literally deleting them. I will have them somewhere, but I haven't really thought that far ahead. Let's see. I think I've rocked through most of these already, and as I think further about it, as long as I hit the mandated, the union mandated 2 hours, I'm going to hit the button exactly now, so it's exactly 2 hours.